Welcome. What is up? Welcome to the Mixer. I am your host, RC. I am joined by my co-host here, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Excited to be back on the pod again.
Awesome. Welcome back after a week off, 2 weeks off. Anyway, doesn't matter. You're here. Do not forget to subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, basically wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review. And we have our YouTube channel. It's the Mixer channel. Check us out there. Now that the housekeeping's done with, Jeff, what are you tilting or stilting this week?
Nothing really. I don't tilt too much, so we go over that fairly often. But I do have a fun story to share with you. Yesterday, I went on a run, and it was a short run, just like 1.5 miles, nothing crazy. And I hit my 1.5 mile mark, and as I do, I just run through our neighborhood, and as I do, I hear this lady screaming for help. Like, help me, this and that. And so I stop and I look around and I see this older lady just laying in front of her door, right? And so I go up there and, start talking to her. And she pretty clearly had broken her wrist.
Oh, no.
And she was older. She had apparently was going to pick up her grandkids from school and fell out of her doorway. And it's not a huge area, but it's think of a normal one step down, right? That's kind of what she fell, and she fell onto concrete. She's, as I said, she's older. She had oxygen, so she's clearly not in the best of shape anyway. So I stopped, called the ambulance for her, got her taken care of, helped her call her daughter so that her daughter could figure something out for the kids and all that. But yeah, I had a pretty eventful run yesterday. So yeah, I just thought you might enjoy that story.
Oh man, real life hero, Jeff.
I don't know about that. She would
on the pod.
She would have figured it out. She was in the process of getting her phone out of her purse anyway.
Yeah.
I just accelerated the process.
Yeah. I mean, it's a scary situation to be in if you're alone. So, I mean, props to you for stepping up and serving your community in that way. Yeah, that's a wild one. So yeah, good job. You're representing the Mixer well to offset for my shenanigans. I mean, I could be tilting any number of things. Had an up and down weekend with the little one. Hit the pumpkin patch, which was freaking awesome. She crushed it there. I do have a Rob versus retail story. Ooh. I went to go get sushi, brought it home, and open it up. The avocado is just not. I mean, it's brown. It's just not great. And give it to the daughter. She likes her little Cali rolls, and so I took it back. And I mean, they were awesome. They remade it fast. They gave us little chocolates to go. So yeah, they made it right. They made, that's how you do customer service. Nice. So anyway, props to Naruto Sushi in Chula Vista. They're to go only currently. A small little place, but if you're in the hood, check them out.
There you go.
All right, let's get into it. NFL Week 7 recap. So it started with the Browns versus the Broncos in a thrilling game. No Baker Mayfield. We had Case Keenum out there. I mean, the Browns held on and won 17-14. There were some really bad games this week. The first 3 weeks of the season were awesome. Week 4 sucked. Week 5 was good. Week 6 was okay. 7, probably the worst week. I mean, when the best game is Jaguars Dolphins, it's a bad. Oh no, that was week 6. the best game was Falcons Dolphins. So I mean, when you think Dolphins, you think entertainment nowadays. But I mean, the Bengals blew out the Ravens. That was a surprise. The Titans destroyed the Chiefs. So and the Patriots destroyed the Jets. I mean, what are your takeaways from Week 7? You feeling good about your Browns? You worried about the Chiefs? Are the Bengals for real? I mean, take your pick, dude. We got a whole charcuterie board of NFL options. I don't know how to say that word. You know what I'm trying to say? Charcuterie.
Anyway. So I think the Browns as a team are legit. I think that quarterback position is a little worrisome. Obviously, the team's not 100% sold on Baker, or else they would have extended him before the season started. And he looked good the first week or two, and then he injured his shoulder and hasn't looked all that great since then. But they're good enough to beat the Broncos. And this week, I don't even know who they play off the top of my head. I think Baker might play. But we'll see. Pretty good team. They have a chance, given the quarterback play improves a little bit, to be really good. I think the Bengals are legit. I thought this for a few weeks. Granted, like their early season schedule wasn't particularly great, but the offense, throwing Jamar in there, he just looks like he's taking the offense to another level. He broke out that 60-yard touchdown the other day against the Ravens, where he broke 2 or 3 tackles on it. I think the Bengals are good. I think that the whole division, the AFC North, with the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Browns, is up there in terms of possibly one of the best divisions in football. The Steelers are just kind of a throw-in at this point. Big Ben can't do a whole lot to make them too scary. But he's really good at throwing to Najee Harris. So if you have Najee in a PPR league, you're probably doing well.
They'll have the mighty have fallen.
Yeah. The Steelers, I think, would be really good if they had a quarterback who could throw more than 10 yards. But that's just my thought. The Chiefs, I'm worried about. Mahomes is still top 5 in the league in terms of expected points added per play or whatever. He's not been as bad as people think because of the interceptions and stuff like that. He's had in the last couple weeks, he's had 3 or 4 interceptions go off receivers' hands, which obviously get added to him, but aren't necessarily his fault in my mind. And that's probably something the NFL should look at, is how to attribute interceptions to somebody other than a quarterback. Like when Tyreek lets the ball go directly through his hands, you know what I mean?
He needs to throw a more catchable ball, Jeff.
You're right. If he throws it in the body, then if it goes through his hands, it just hits him in the chest, right?
Yeah. So, let me react to some of that before I forget. So the Bengals. I mean, I got my Joe Knows shirt on. It's nice when your B team is currently the 1 seed in the AFC, and I mean the Chargers might be the 2 or 3. Anyway, the bye's got everything thrown off. It's not important. But Jamar Chase, I mean, you were spot on, and I think we just kind of joked around about it. All the negative news about Burrow in the preseason and Jamar Chase not being able to catch the ball because it didn't have stripes on it was just 100% troll. I mean, Jamar Chase is a freaking animal, and I was not high enough on him in fantasy. I don't really have him. I mean, I might have him on 2 or 3 best ball teams, but out of 50 or so total teams. So that's not a great ownership percentage.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I feel terrible that that I missed on that one, since he is a Bengal, and he was from LSU, but I mean, what can you do? He was going really high, and it's one of those rare cases where we had a rookie going high, and justifiably so. I mean, he's going to win, or he should, if he just remains healthy, going to win some people some fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
and such. So, I mean, props to you for calling that out early on. That shade being thrown was somewhat of a diversion. I just wish, I wasn't on the losing end of that. I mean, it's good to see Burrow rebounding, and then as far as the Chiefs go and Mahomes, I mean, I don't know. We see it seems like there's a perfect storm of misfortune and trends with the Chiefs happening, where they have a narrow target tree where everything's going to Kelsey, everything's going to Tyreek, and if you can somehow cover them, then the Chiefs are in trouble. And Mahomes is trying to do too much, and that's when the ball gets turned over, and he already has more turnovers this season than he did last season. So, and they come off the Super Bowl loss, and I think when that happens, the team message or whatever just gets a little stale because just that hangover effect. So, I mean, where do you see the Chiefs going? Do you think? I mean, is it crazy to say they might not make the playoffs?
I don't think that's crazy. I still think that they have a decent chance just because their offense can be so good. I think this is kind of a lesson in team building a little bit as well. The Chiefs clearly kind of just rely on Mahomes way too much. I know they tried to bring in Juju this offseason, and that decision by Juju still baffles me. That he didn't go there. He chose to be like the number 3 in Pittsburgh, or 4, depending on how you view like throwing to the running back, instead of just being the number 2 or 3 in Kansas City. But I don't think they're far away. They obviously need to be better on defense. They haven't been very good. They've also played a fairly tough schedule so far, which happens when you go to the Super Bowl and you're the number 1 seed and all that stuff. But if they can tighten some things up, get a little bit better on defense, I don't think they're like far away from being good. Mm-hmm. I just think that right now they have like a top 5 offense and a bottom 5 defense, or the worst defense in the league. And it's hard to win. Like, I don't think defense matters a whole lot unless you're like the worst defense in the league. And that's where the Chiefs are right now.
Yeah. And you mentioned their schedule and it being a difficult one. I mean, so far they've played the Ravens, the Chargers, the Eagles, the Bills, the football
Browns
team. They lost to the Titans. Yeah, the Browns. And then they have the Giants this week. So, plus a favorable matchup, you would assume. And then they play the Packers, the Raiders division game, Cowboys, Broncos division game, Raiders, Chargers, Steelers, Bengals, Broncos. So they have a lot of division games, which, they should, in theory, steamroll like the Broncos and probably the Raiders as well. But I mean, you just see with division games, they're more difficult because the teams just aren't intimidated. They know all the tricks, and like, anything can happen in those games. And then the non-division games, Packers, Cowboys, Bengals, Steelers, they just got smoked by the Titans. And that game against the football team was closer than the score would indicate. I believe they were trailing at half, which they often do. So yeah, I mean, they're looking at like a 500 record projected. So there is that additional wild card spot this year, so that should probably help them. It seems like, when you're at or just above 500, you usually get in the playoffs. So yeah, but I mean, it's not looking good for them, especially not like getting a first round bye or anything. Another thought with the way that rookies have been performing, and kind of relates to Jamar Chase, maybe Kyle Pitts as well. a lot of people were, and I think we could tie this into the Chiefs because their problem in the Super Bowl was they couldn't protect Mahomes. Their offensive line was terrible, and now like they can't really have a running presence. And I mean, they drafted Edwards-Helaire in the first round, 2 years ago? Not this draft, but the draft before, and
Yeah.
he hasn't really done much since, and he's hurt now. And they just can't seem to get him involved or whatever. Everybody wanted the Bengals to take Penny Sewell, the like lockdown tackle from Oregon, and they went with Jamar Chase. And then kind of similarly, the Falcons took a tight end, very high, the highest anybody's taken a tight end. So I mean, I have conversations with people where they want the high T, build up the lines, moves, but I mean, what do you think on that, Jeff? Do you think, is this a new NFL trend where these kind of difference makers oh man, what do we call these positions? Playmakers at skill positions. There we go.
Yeah.
At skill positions like tight end, wide receiver, not so much running back. Are they, is the low T move the plus EV to get these superstars over, protecting the quarterback?
So I don't think it is. I think long term you're better off in a lot of those like early round positions or early in the draft positions, either taking a quarterback or someone on a line, right? Either a D lineman or an offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. I think taking skill positions that early is more of an art than a science. I mean, even if we just look at this year, you have Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith in the first 15 picks or whatever. Mm-hmm. And realistically, up until 2 weeks ago, 3 of the 4 were not all that impactful this year. Mm-hmm. Outside of Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith had a good week to start the year and then has kind of been whatever. Waddle's been like hit and miss, although he is getting more usage. And Pitts was kind of a disappointment until the last couple weeks for what everyone thought he was going to be. Now, the last couple weeks, he's had huge weeks. I think in general, you're going to get more consistent production and a longer-term player out of taking a lineman. But if you happen to hit on these guys, and it depends on your team situation as well, right? If you have a good quarterback who can get the ball to guys like this, then I do think it can make sense to go grab an elite skill position guy. But when I say that, I mean like truly elite. Like Pitts, even though he'd been a disappointment, he clearly has that elite skill set. And the last couple of weeks we've seen it, right? He's gotten the targets and he's started to produce. Chase, from day one in the regular season, has been, one of the better receivers in the NFL. He comes in, he can separate. Even when he doesn't separate, he can make a catch. And after the catch, he's really good. Smith and Waddle, though, are a little more, I think, situation dependent. Smith in Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts I think he's the only player in the league to be a starter each week of the season at their respective position.
In fantasy you're talking, yeah.
But he's not necessarily the best, I think, at distributing the football to receivers. And Waddle has been he's had to deal with Brissett and a lot of changes happening week to week in Miami. But I think overall, like Sewell's been really good in Detroit. You just hear about him less because what do offensive linemen do to get news, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just think there's no cutting cut and dry answer. I mean, I hate to, toe the middle and and not take a strong stance, but I could just see it both ways because I mean, like Sewell ends up going to Detroit, and Detroit is terrible. Jamar Chase goes to Cincinnati, and they're having success, and he's been a dominant force on that team. I mean, it's not, it's hindsight analysis, but if they draft offensive linemen, I don't see them having the same success. I mean, Kyle Pitts is now emerging, but Atlanta is terrible. It's not like he's helping out Matt Ryan too much. But anyway, so I just think, yeah, I mean, I think you just gotta look at the player and not take it so much as a like philosophical approach where we got to build around this guy if you have somebody that can make a huge difference.
Right. I think the general rule, I would take a lineman over a skill player, but then it comes down to like a skill player who is truly like elite is probably more valuable than an elite lineman. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, the Chargers, they took Rashawn Slater who fell. He's a right tackle, and I mean he's been a shutdown dude. However, like I don't know that if he wasn't available, but if you get Jamar Chase on that team, like I think they're better off. But I mean he seems like a freaking generational talent, so it's not a fair comparison. But I mean Herbert, even with Devonta Smith, might be doing better than he currently is. Not that he's not been great, but like right. I mean Keenan Allen, I don't know if he's lost a step or what, but that they've been in certain situations where it doesn't work out is because they don't have like that reliable second or third option at receiver. That seems to be kind of holding him back, but it's not a fair comparison. But anyway, so what else you got from week 7? I mean, the Bears look terrible.
The Bears and Jets look god awful.
Yeah.
At what point does Kyle Shanahan get on the hot seat? He has as many wins as Matt Nagy in their times as head coaches. Granted, he's been to a Super Bowl, but at some point, like that's got to stop weighing so heavily, especially when you're dicking around with your rookie quarterback too. I heard him say the other day, like Trey Lance is still weeks away, and then a video came out of Trey Lance at practice, like moving around and running better than Jimmy G ever has. So just a little kind of shocked by that. I like Shanahan too. I just think he's a little too in the mindset of like his system over everything. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much. I have a couple fantasy questions for you though, football wise.
All right, let's roll.
So if you're a team that's struggling in a essentially a 2 quarterback league, and there's potentially a like franchise changing quarterback on the waiver wire, but he's not currently playing, Deshaun Watson. Is it worth it to pick him up just in case? We have like fairly deep benches. We have like 7 or 8 people on the bench or whatever. Mm-hmm. Granted, he's not playing, but there's a lot of talk about multiple teams possibly trading for him at this point. And the NFL has stated they will not suspend him for this year. Uh-huh. So like Houston could be playing him every week if they wanted to. And they're just choosing not to, which makes sense. It's probably the right side morally. Don't get me wrong with that. But you're trying to win a fantasy league or at least do well, do you pick him up just in case someone trades for him and starts playing him?
I mean, with anything, it's team dependent. Now, if we assume that, I mean, right now we've only had 2-3 bye weeks. So if like this person's primary quarterback or two quarterbacks have been, have gone through their bye, or they have like, a guy that can fill in that super flex spot in a pinch, that's wide receiver, running back. Like if they got 3 good running backs or 4 good receivers or something like that, I can certainly see where it would happen. However, with Deshaun Watson, I think it's maybe like a 5% chance that he plays at all this season. So I don't see the benefit for most teams on doing that, especially if you're struggling. You're playing for you need to stack wins. So, if Deshaun Watson was traded right now to another team, he wouldn't start right away. At the very least, you're looking at 2 weeks, I would say, at least, getting familiar with the system. And then you're pretty much at week 10 by then. Who knows if the team he gets traded to has a bye, and then the playoffs. So, at most you might get like 5 weeks of him, but I think that's even super optimistic because I don't see a team, if they trade for him, playing him. There's been a lot of shit in the news and on Twitter about teams fighting over him or driving up the price, but it just seems like a lot of smoke. And if a team brings him in, I think to kind of curtail the outrage or the anger from the fan base that gets him, it just delaying it. I don't think he'll be going to like a playoff
Right.
a team in playoff contention. So there's really no benefit for that team to start him this year. If anything, it's just like get acclimated, get in practice, and get a head start for the next season. So I just think for a lot of people, it doesn't make sense. It is, if you got a spot and, you want to take that home run swing and there's no other, better fit for your team. Like, I get it, but it's very low probability that it'll pay off.
Right. I agree with that. I do think, though, that where I think I would differ is I think if someone were to trade for him, I think they definitely play him this year because I don't see any other reason why, because he's potentially suspended going forward. And this year is the only year that you would be able to play him.
Yeah. Then why trade for him? I don't.
Well, I agree with you on that. That's why I think it's like such a low percentage, right? Is because what's the incentive to trade for him? You're going to give up a high pick or whatever to get a guy who may not play after this year.
Yeah, it just feels like every single time Josh Gordon signs with the team, it's like somebody thinks like, yeah, finally I got Josh Gordon, and he never does shit. So
I have another one. So just made a trade in our Dynasty League. Want to get your thoughts on this?
Okay.
I traded away Darren Waller and Samaje Perine for TJ Hawkinson, Kadarius Toney, and Michael Carter.
Yeah, I like it. I think Toney could be awesome. So, Waller's been great, but you're getting Hawkinson back, who's been pretty good, and Michael Carter, he's just like kind of a throw-in, rookie running back. It never hurts to have a young running back stashed, even if they haven't done anything yet, especially on the Jets. So yeah, I like it. I would. Yeah, there's no winners or losers, but for the guy getting Darren Waller, that could be a difference maker for him. And for you, you're taking a chance on Tony and Carter like panning out, and then Hawkinson to kind of continue his production. So it's a fair trade. Tony in that deal is what has the potential to make it really good for you.
That was kind of my thought. I thought, I really love Waller, but looking at it too, and looking at the Raiders situation, since week 1, he hasn't been particularly great. Like, he hasn't been terrible, but hasn't been great. He's also 29, not super old, but not super young either. Hawkinson's 24. He is, not even in his prime yet, probably has room to grow. I like you said, Tony is probably the potential like trade winner there, if there is one. If he happens to like break out the way it looks like he has, or could do. And then I just like Michael Carter, so I figured he asked for Jerick McKinnon, or he wanted Jerick McKinnon from me for like Devontae Parker in that Michael Carter slot. And I said, no, like, I already got rid of Devontae Parker. I don't want him again.
Yeah.
So I asked for Carter, and he wanted P. Ryan instead because he has Mixon. So I said, sure. I don't see P. Ryan as a long-term value, so that was kind of a throw-in for me. The only part about the trade I don't like is my normal trade thoughts is I want to get the best player in the trade. But that's not always doable, and I think I just figured I'd reinforce my team a little bit.
Yeah, I like it. So we got Cardinals Packers tonight. No Devontae Adams for the Packers. No Lazard for the Packers either. Should be a good one. Cardinals only undefeated team left. You had said the Bills were the best team in the NFL last time you were on here. Are the Bills still at the top of your power rankings, or you got somebody else now?
The Bills are still at the top. I think there's a few teams challenging them or coming close, but I still have the Bills as the best.
Yeah, I'm excited for this game. Unfortunately, the game tonight between the Packers and Cardinals, because, I mean, the Packers laid an egg week 1, and then they've dominated since then. So, and Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback, and they tore shit up last year. So, I mean, if the Packers had Devontae Adams, I could see this as a battle for maybe the best team in the NFL. I mean, the Bills are good. I just, Josh Allen just has a little bit of wild streak in him. And, I mean, their defense is good though. So I mean, I could see a case being made for the three of these teams as being the best, and obviously the Bucs in there as well. You just gotta, I don't know. I mean, at some point, I mean, did maybe Tom Brady just needed to play in a warmer climate, and he wouldn't fade down the stretch like he has. Maybe it's as simple as that.
It also helps having the weapons that they have down there.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, hopefully my Mike Evans best ball shares vaulted me up, because I was like kind of middle of the pack in a lot of leagues, and I was like, what the hell, man? I know I got some good players on here. Let's shift gears to Formula One, shall we? We had the United States Grand Prix, Circuit of the America, in Austin, Texas. That track, man, has really rubbered in. It kind of, I don't know, it's been kind of trying to find its footing, but I mean, it just looks spectacular. The race wasn't that great, but hundreds of thousands of fans attended. It was something like 300K plus over the 3-day event. Something like close to 150K for race day. So really awesome to see the growth of the sport. And so, I mean, just a brief recap. Verstappen got pole on Saturday, beat Hamilton, I think, by like 0.2. Hamilton got the lead in the first corner. The first couple of sequences on the track were was pretty exciting. I was standing up when Hamilton got a better start, and I, as soon as he went on the inside of that corner, I was like, push him off the track, and he pushed him off the track. I was like, yes. Sergio Perez could have passed Verstappen, but kind of just let off the gas and let his teammate continue.
That was
props to him.
There were a couple moments in the race that were probably pivotal for Max to win, and that might have actually been the most important, because as we saw in the race, and if you look at the end result, Lewis and Max finished 40 seconds ahead of Sergio in third. Mm-hmm. If Lewis is able to get out in first and pull away from Sergio with Max in third, Max may not have much of a chance to come back at that point. Sergio slowing down and allowing Max to pass and stay in second kept Max close enough to Lewis that they were able to actually use strategy to get back ahead.
Yeah, I agree. That was huge, and shout out to Perez for being a good teammate. Hashtag Max would never.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So then, Hamilton led the first sequence. Red Bull brought in Verstappen a little early to do the undercut. The undercut worked, and Hamilton chased down Verstappen on older tires towards the end of the race, but he just didn't have enough. And Hamilton ends up behind Verstappen by a second and a half. He got the gap to within a second with like 2 laps to go, but just not enough left in the tires or the car.
Max got a little bit lucky too, that on one of the DRS straights, he got DRS off Schumacher, and Hamilton wasn't in DRS range.
Yeah.
And so Max was able to extend it a little bit.
I caught that too.
Yeah.
Good call out. Perez was about 40 seconds behind. Red Bull could have pit Perez to get fastest lap, and because Hamilton had fastest lap, and take that point away. It seems like they have room in the constructors title to where they can do moves like that, but taking a podium away from Perez in North America and Texas, where there's a big Mexican fan presence, they said would have been too harsh. So they let him, continue, finish on the podium. He had a great weekend. He's really settling in to his role at Red Bull. He had provisional pole briefly in qualifying. That would have been spectacular. They're going to Mexico next, so that'll obviously be a big fan presence for Perez there. Hopefully he has a good showing. The other kind of subtle storyline of this weekend is we had Charles Leclerc in 4th and Carlos Sainz in 7th. Both, Ferrari outpacing McLaren. Daniel Ricciardo finished 5th, and then Norris 8th. So, that battle for the brand for 3rd place in the constructors is really tight. I think it's something like 5 points between them. And this is the first time in a few races where it felt like we had a true litmus test, or like a level ground to kind of measure where all the teams are at. And unfortunately for Lewis Hamilton or Mercedes, it seems like Red Bull has the advantage car wise. Does Ferrari have a car advantage over McLaren, you think, or is this just kind of a one-off?
It's been weird. So I don't have the historical knowledge of what tracks teams tend to be good at or not good at, but let me
sum up the last few years. Ferrari has sucked at every track
I know that
for a while.
But with Red Bull and Mercedes, obviously those two cars are very close. But it does appear, as you said, like Red Bull just have a better car. And I think they've also kind of, you can make arguments here and there, but outside of the Max incidents with Lewis, where he's been DNF'd or, when he got ran into in Turkey or whatever. Red Bull's kind of gotten lucky. I say lucky. All their strategic calls this year have paid off. Pulling Max in early, all that kind of stuff to the undercut, and then, kind of in the race getting lucky at the end that he gets the DRS off of Mick and Lewis doesn't. Things like that have just broken their favor strategically. Whereas the last couple of years, Mercedes has been dominant, and even when they've needed those things, they've worked out, right? Mercedes has had that luck. And this year, it seems like that has swung toward Red Bull, along with them having a better car, even though it's slight. I think in the midfield, though, Ferrari, McLaren, it's so drastic at different tracks that, like some tracks, you go to Monza, and McLaren just has clearly a better car than the rest of the midfield, right? But then you go the next week or whatever, you go to Russia, and McLaren does well. And then, we go wherever, and then we end up in Texas, and Ferrari's clearly better, right? Now, we've heard of Ferrari getting upgrades and stuff like that. But it just seems to me like with those midfield cars, the way they're designed and where they're at engineering-wise, whatever track they're at just makes such a bigger difference versus Red Bull and Mercedes. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah.
like, I do think that, Ferrari has clearly caught up, but I do think track will matter.
Yeah. It seems like whatever advantage Mercedes has enjoyed over the past few seasons, engine-wise, has gone away. We have Red Bull with a Honda engine up there, routinely at least on pace with Mercedes at tracks where the engine comes more into play than aerodynamics. And Ferrari ahead of McLaren at this track, which has a Mercedes engine. So I saw a stat that Sergio Perez in the Racing Point Mercedes, the pink Mercedes last year at this point in the season, he had more points than he does in a Red Bull, and that was because it was, I guess it had the aerodynamics too, but it was primarily because the engine, the Mercedes engine, and Ferrari seems to have clawed that back, and Honda clearly has as well. So it's going to be exciting towards the end of the season. We have the Mexican Grand Prix next, which kind of is similar to Monza, long straightaways. We got the Brazilian GP, which is a neutral track. Qatar, which I know nothing about. Saudi Arabia, which I know nothing about. And then Abu Dhabi, which is pretty neutral, similar to this track. So yeah, we might not get the championship, the drivers' championship battle, unless Verstappen and his engine and transmission replacements catch up to him. It seems like Red Bull's going to walk away with the constructors, but that battle for third in the constructors, millions of dollars on the line for in prize money between two huge rivals, Ferrari and McLaren, should be fun to watch. Hopefully the broadcast picks up on it. Lots of stars at the Circuit of the Americas. Just, you love to see it.
Yeah, I might do that next year.
Yeah, bro, I want to go so bad.
We've already been looking at tickets and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's expensive. I actually know somebody in Austin, I think. So yeah, we might have to make that happen. Hopefully Bitcoin moons. If Bitcoin moons, then yeah, for sure. We're doing Indy 500. We're doing US Grand Prix. Yeah, it'll be fun. Take the mixer on the road. Anything else on your mind before we get out of here? The next race, Sunday, November 7th. It'll be, it was nice not having to wake up so early or missing it.
That was nice.
Yeah, this will be a similar deal, 11 a.m. ESPN in Mexico City. So anything else before we get out of here?
No, I'm good.
All right. My teams have been sucking in fantasy despite a great start. So yeah, I mean, if I've ever needed PF Chang's, it's now. I need to rally. PF Chang's and rally. All right. Till next week.